Surprise! 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 Grandma, I'm ready for another story.
Okay. Surprises never end.
What a coincidence!
Jim began counting the days. 8, 7, 6, 5. 5 more days ahead of him, and then Joe would be home. That morning Jim was riding Bang through the big woods. It was a lovely day in early autumn. As Jim rode along, he watched the golden color of the leaves as they fell to the ground. All at once a little wild rabbit ran out from under a big leaf. Bang would step on the rabbit. Jim knew that he would. Without thinking what he was doing, Jim pulled on the reins and began to dig into Bang's side with his left knee. Then something happened. Jim never could tell how it happened, but it did. Down went Bang's head, and out went his back legs. Bang bucked. For a second, Jim thought that he was about to land on the ground with a hard bump, but he didn't. He had a good hold on the reins, and he held on to the saddle with his knees for dear life. In another minute, Bang was walking along as if nothing had happened. Jim was so surprised that he could hardly sit in the saddle. Had Bang really bucked? If he had, it was not so bad after all. But what had made him buck? The rabbit? Was that it? The rabbit was not a sign, and Joe said that Bang would not buck without the sign. Then Joe remembered his knee. Could that be it? Oh, oh, oh! Suppose he had found the sign. That was so exciting that it was a wonder Jim did not fall off the pony's back. There was only one thought in his head. I must try it. I must try it, he thought, and he did try it. He pulled on the reins and began to dig into Bang's side with his left knee. Again Bang bucked, and this time it didn't seem like anything at all. Jim really enjoyed it. I have it, he cried at the top of his voice. Wait until Jack hears about this. He went on calling, I have it, without ever stopping to think that there was no one in the woods to hear him call. Jim stayed in the woods for the rest of the morning. When he rode into the barnyard, he was shouting at the top of his voice for Jack to come out and see. Then right in front of the barn door, where Jack was standing, Jim made Bang buck. Upon my word, I never thought you could do it, shouted Jack. He threw his hat so high into the air that it landed on the barn roof. Again, am I as good a rider as Joe now? Asked Jim. You are almost, said Jack, and the smile on his face reached from ear to ear. Once again, Jim began to count the days. 4, 3, 2, 1. This very afternoon, Joe was coming home. Maybe Joe had seen cowboys and Indians and exciting things out west, but Jim had something to show him, too. Jack and Jim had it all fixed up. They had put their heads together and thought how they could give Joe the biggest surprise of his life. Jim was going to ride Bang down to the station. Jack would keep the people out of the way so that no one would be hurt. Yes, Jack and Jim had it all fixed. When the train pulled in at the station, there was Joe at the top of the steps, all ready to get off. He jumped down and said hello to Father and gave Mother a big hug. Then all at once, in the street behind them, he saw Jim on Bang's back. "Hello, Jim. Hello, Bang, good old fellow," he cried as he started for them on the run. "Keep out of the way of his heels, Joe, and hurry about it too," called Jim. And then, right in front of Joe's eyes, with all the people looking on, Bang bucked. For a minute Joe stood still with his mouth open, too surprised to say a word. "You rascals," he called as he ran over to Jim and the pony. He stood with one arm around Jim and one around the pony's neck. "You rascals, did Bang tell you the sign, Jim? How did you find out?" "I found it out for myself," said Jim. "And what do you think of Bang now?" Joe asked next. "I am so glad he is mine," said Jim. "He is the best pony in the land." Then Joe smiled, his own jolly smile. "Of course he is," said Joe. "Bang is the best pony in the land." So that was the end of that story.